I share what I'm listening to and my thoughts on music and the business daily for free at helloyassine.com. What's poppin', y'all? In the midst of one of the craziest rants we've ever seen in history, Ye drops some great insight. It's almost like a broken clock is right 2 times a day. But in this one, I think it's so indicative of many other complaints that people have had within music industry as a whole. But I think it bothers hip-hop listeners the most. And we're going to get straight into the clips and assess each and every one of them. Because each one of these short clips has not a deeper meaning, but I want to expand on it a lot more.
So yeah, I'm reporting live from Japan right now. And I was talking to my boy, and I was talking about how I released Bully just on my Twitter, and how I like the idea of being on DSPs, but I don't like the fact that they show the numbers.
So in this clip, Ye complains, or Ye makes a note that he doesn't like that they're showing streaming numbers. And this is a great point that Ye makes here, because immediately when he dropped Bully, or about a day later, a bunch of people that I wouldn't even say they hate Ye, but they want to look good on social media and get engagement by pretending that they hate Ye for the stuff that he's been saying. And they're like, oh man, nobody even listened to Bully. Like, Bully came and went. And one of these tweets had like 200,000 I don't know if it had 200,000. It had like a good amount of cosigns. And the problem is they immediately tried to discredit it with the numbers. So they're like, yeah, man, Bully only did this, but the numbers that they tried to use was some random account uploading it. So there isn't any real metric that they can get the numbers by other than the engagement that it got on Ye's Twitter. And that doesn't indicate how people actually feel about the music. So this is an element that I can agree with Ye on here. And I think Ye has an interesting perspective on this, because he doesn't need music to make money, and he doesn't need people to love the music that he makes and buy it for him to continue his music career. For instance, a lot of people's albums in hip hop are make or break. So for instance, Chance the Rapper, his album, The Big Day, was a make or break. And it was a break, really. And now it's been very, very tough for him to recover after that, even though he's dropped some amazing music in the past couple of years. Like, if you haven't checked out Chance the Rapper and what he's been dropping, check it out. Be completely unbiased. You can't say it's not fire. With that said, the reason why I say that is because Ye has dropped some albums that people consider duds. Like Vultures 2, it's not the greatest thing. But Donda 2, what even happened with Donda 2? I feel like half of us didn't even listen to it, other than people that, of course, look into leaks. There weren't really any numbers for Donda 2, other than STEM players. So those are 2 projects we can already say were and people felt that about Jesus is King, although I do feel like they came back around. But that's already 2 projects. And people are still anticipating the next Ye project. Part of that is because he built up such a catalog. But for other artists, they don't get afforded that luxury that Ye has built for himself. I won't say that he just gets it for no reason. So on to the next clip.
Because every single musician now pays more money to get their first week numbers than we make off of the actual album.
And this is what I think a lot of people don't understand. I don't think the average fan realizes when money is being spent on an album and how much money is being spent on an album. Like, for instance, I see so many people confidently and arrogantly wrong about things. Like, for instance, they're like, yeah, man, well, this person sold 10K and that's like 100K if you calculate the streams. So they just made 100,000. No, they didn't make 100,000. Their album probably cost $500,000 to $750K to make off rip. Number one, I remember there was a clip of Joey Badass who was talking about how much it cost him to make his album, and this was an independent album. I don't remember what album it was, but I think he said it cost him somewhere around under 500,000, but 400 something thousand dollars to make the album. Granted, this was a Joey Badass that had a distribution deal, so he wasn't getting a major label advance and all that. But a lot of these other rappers, they're not seeing the money from the album. And think about it, the studio time, the travel costs, the engineer, the producer, all the other producers, the features, as well as the sample clearances. All of those things are upfront costs before the album is even dropped. and let alone we get the marketing. And then the marketing, you've got all these posts on social media, all the digital, all that, I don't know, billboard advertisements, whatever they may get. Most of it is spent on digital nowadays. Playlists, we don't know how that really works because technically you're not supposed to pay for playlists. Radio play, if they get that. So a lot of it is spent trying to make sure that the artist's first week sales aren't a flop, partially because it hurts the artist's career and the discoverability of their album if people just deem it as, oh, these numbers suck, I'm not even going to check this out. And people want to pretend like this is something that they don't care about, but they do. And it's always been a thing. Like, people will try to blame academics for it. Like, oh, yeah, that's why people care about album sales. Do you guys not remember Curtis versus Graduation, which was Kanye versus 50 Cent, which was in 2008? 2008, almost 20 years ago, and people cared. People cared about number ones. Did they tune into it as much, and were there large-scale conversations around it? Not really. I don't think the fans cared as much, but you got to think, back then, people were also buying CDs, and the landscape was completely different. But I will say that back then, people were more open to listening to artists that didn't have the numbers. And then you got to also consider the potential, well, not even the possibility, the truth that some of these labels were buying albums. So they're buying albums to get the numbers up, and then hopefully it continues to stream and it stays alive. Or they're just thinking it's going to boost the catalog, because for them, they're just interested in the catalog of the artist doing very well, because they're not paying any more money on the back catalog. So they'll spend it here. If the whole catalog goes up, they'll make their money back, but the artist is still going to be in debt, obviously. And then we get into a really important point, which is, what does this force the artist to do? Because the artist's never going to recoup at this rate if they're spending all that money on marketing.
You got to make your money through brand deals and touring.
So here you have Ye talking about artists are forced to tour and do brand deals. Now, this is the problem. Brand deals, it sounds like everybody gets them. It sounds like that, right? But the majority of, think about this past era of rap, the past 4 to 5 years. The majority of rappers in this era were street rappers. A lot of them are locked up. And the majority of them do not get brand deals because, number one, they're constantly in and out of jail. They're radioactive. They're gang members. They're not a good representation of a brand. I think the last person that was somewhat of a street rapper, he was a street rapper, was Meek Mill, that had a Puma deal. But I don't know if he still has that deal. I think he had a deal with Lids as well. But a lot of these other rappers are a lot more active than Meek Mill. I mean, these guys talking about killing people. There's plenty of posts on social media connecting them to murders that maybe they get caught for later. So they're not really, that's why you see a lot of these street rappers, they're getting deals with shady Telegram weed companies, and you see them doing these promos where you're like, yo, why is this guy even doing this? Well, number one, he's getting a big bag for it because it's, I would say, gray market business. I'm not going to say they're doing anything illegal like that. It's gray market business. It's a big bag and it feels like minimal work. So they have to do that. And that doesn't come frequently, and you can burn that out. So what other option is there? Well, there's a lot of these crypto deals that some of these rappers have took. No Jumper was one of the people that took them as well. And then you've got shows. And this is where the majority of these street rappers make their money, is they'll pick up bags to do clubs, walkthroughs, maybe strip clubs here and there, locally, or locally as in within their region. And then they'll hop out to another region, perhaps do it if they're bigger in that region. Like, for instance, Moneybagg Yo in the beginning, he was just going from club to club in the South, really. Same thing that Rich Homie Quan was doing for quite a while. And they pick up bags here, but this is the thing. It dilutes their potential touring revenue. Because if someone just saw you at the club or a regular night, why would they pay tickets to come see you in person? And this is something that Russ talks about. It's a delicate balance that you got to strike, because you got to pay for these features, you got to pay to keep the music career going, but the only real money that you're getting is from these shows or these shady brand deals, because you're not really earning from the music like that unless you're in a position like Key Glock or Young Dolph was, where you had your own just distribution deal and you ran all your music, which many artists aren't in because it's just so lucrative for them to get in advance and the labels are getting them so early. So that leaves artists constantly on the road. And how much better can you get at making music if you always have to be on the road? It's difficult. So here Ye talks about, you can get your brand dropped. If you say anything against the brand, you got to toe this line.
And if you say anything against the brand deal, you can get your brand dropped. So now they have a control of what you say. And when you go touring, you know who gets paid off of the touring. So they're eating every which way.
I think it's quite flexible. Realistically, the only way you're going to get your brand dropped, this is the thing. I said it's very, very difficult to even get the brand deal, which is true. But let's say an artist has a brand deal. Number one, if it's a white artist, then if they say anything racial or anything close to that, they can get dropped for their brand deal. Most other things they're pretty fine with. For non-white rappers, they can basically say anything that they want except talk about groups of people and moments in history that Ye has been speaking about lately. If you're not doing that, you're most likely not going to lose your brand deal. Oh yeah, other than like maybe hitting chicks, right? Which is, it seems to be a very difficult thing for rappers to do. I don't know. So those are the two things, which it's not that difficult to avoid. So rappers are rarely losing brand deals for something that they said. And keep in mind, Ye said something that they said, not necessarily something that they did, which would be like hitting chicks or something of that nature. And then the next clip is where I feel like Ye goes a little bit off of the deep end, just a tad bit.
There had to be a moment where they said, we have to control what these guys are making on these album sales and these streams, because if we give them too much money, they're going to be sitting, in a hotel in Japan like Ye, as opposed to jumping up and down on a Rolling Loud stage.
This is where I think Ye is just thinking a bit too hard. They're not concerned with these rappers. The majority of rappers, they don't even, the majority of rappers aren't even thinking outside of their own hood, city. I remember when Pooh Shiesty, what was the song, 762 God? Like, he rapped about something like, this the block where I'm dying at. Like, even if I become a millionaire, I'm staying on this block. He genuinely means that. Most rappers don't want to leave America. Most rappers just want to stay in the system and make more money, because there's lifestyle creep on rappers. Rappers want to flex, they want to be in the club with hoes, and they want to make more money and get more jewelry. The majority of rappers. So they're just going to keep doing that. The rapper like Ye, who's actually artistic, actually wants to learn about different cultures, you got to keep in mind, Ye spent some time in China when he was a kid. So he was exposed to the world in a different way through his environment and his mom, of course. Whereas most rappers, they're not thinking globally like that. Maybe if they're getting a bag outside somewhere, they're interested in going. But look at Cardi. He got offered a bag to perform in, I think it was UAE and Thailand, Rolling Loud Thailand, and he canceled both. He wasn't really interested in going there. Probably the furthest he'll go is maybe the UK, I think. I don't know if Cardi ever did a European tour as well. I know that would go crazy now. He might do one now. But yeah, like these rappers, it's not difficult to keep them jumping around on a Rolling Loud stage. They want to jump around on a Rolling Loud stage. So the labels aren't concocting some nefarious experiment to keep them on the Rolling Loud stage. Now, to keep them making music, yeah, of course. And this has always happened. Like, artists had complaints about getting paid from the royalties of their music when CDs were a thing, which you didn't have real-time streams. So in this clip, Ye talks about getting it on DSPs without having to do the ship vinyl, which I don't know how one goes with the other, because the ship vinyl stuff is for them to get Billboard positions and sell album units. Him getting it on DSPs is just uploading it. He's done that before with Carnival, for instance, which was one of the greatest accomplishments in music history in terms of how that did. And people are trying to say Cardi carried that. Rich the Kid low-key carried that, if we want to give credit to anybody. But I'm not going to go on that tangent. Back to the topic.
I'm looking at, how do I get the music on DSPs without them counting it? Because I'm not doing all the ship vinyl and do the vinyl and this, that. Like, I'm telling you, everyone in the industry is paying for the numbers right now. And that's what I'm not with. So there you have it.
I like Ye's idea here, because social media platforms have been testing something like that, where they just show you stuff and they kind of hide the likes for a certain post. I think they offer people the option to hide the posts or hide the likes, but the reason why likes and streams and numbers work is because it's human nature. Like, it's in our DNA to care about these things, and people will lie. And it's another attempt at virtue signaling, where it's like, man, like, I don't care about the numbers. I just listen to the music. And then you show somebody an artist that's not lit, and they're like, you think I'm gonna listen to that guy? Okay, thanks for proving my point, bucko. So this is something that people will always try to calculate, and Apple Music doesn't really show numbers, but Spotify does. And I think the fact that it shows numbers is good if the numbers were real, because then you can get an accurate assessment of how strong a person's fan base is, how big their fan base is, how much they're consumed. But it incentivizes the manipulation of these numbers, which is a constant cat and mouse whack-a-mole game that the digital streaming platforms have to play with either record labels or even people that are just trying to game the system, which makes it tough. And that's where the problem will always lie, because we want the numbers. We want the numbers to be fair. But the fact that we care about the numbers and we want the numbers makes individuals, groups, etc., try to manipulate the numbers in a way to get people more invested or just generally create conversation around their artists. Because think about it, how often has conversation been around music? I would say people try to make fun of these like TikTok songs. Well, a lot of these TikTok songs go up because people like the music. So as much as you want to make fun of these guys, they're not looking at the numbers. They're like, oh shoot, this sounds good. Let me check out the song. Oh, okay, I like this song. Let me add it to my playlist. And these are people that are usually not even in tune with music scenes like that. They're just the average normie. So really, maybe there is something we can learn from them. But let me know what you guys think about this in the comments. Like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you enjoyed. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Go to helloyassine.com, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching. Peace.